Gentlemen, welcome to the Maverick Mindset Radio Show. I am Adam Williams,
And I'm Ashley Muckenhop.
and this is the radio show for the dreamers and doers. It's for those who are willing to step into the arena.
Some call us the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers.
We don't accept the status quo. We leave the world better than we find it.
We approach each day with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind. We maintain a rational optimism about the future.
This is the Maverick Mindset Radio Show brought to you by me, Adam Williams. This show is going to be awesome. It's also kind of funny because you know that the reason I put ladies and gentlemen in the intro to our show is because I took it from the Ritz-Carlton because they refer to their employees as the ladies and gentlemen of the Ritz-Carlton. And I'm in a Ritz-Carlton right now. And I have like this club access so I can get free breakfast and coffee. And I got a welcome letter and it's from the ladies and gentlemen of the Ritz-Carlton. So that's exciting thing number one for me. Nobody else gets to benefit from that. But exciting thing number two that should have everybody pumped up is we have a guest today. We have our favorite guest today.
Yes, definitely our favorite and our first guest of the new year.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
I keep forgetting. New
yeah.
year, new us.
I
I almost forgot.
stop saying that.
All right, so we're gonna have a great show today. We have Jackie Williams here with us, rock star mother, rock star tax strategist, entrepreneur,
She's our Maverick mom.
maverick mom,
Yep.
toughest person on the face of the planet. Really excited to have her here. So today is January 22nd as we do this live for anybody listening to the recording. On January 29th, we have a really cool event coming up, a virtual event that we're hosting for free called Your 2025 Tax Plan, where we're going to be laying out some tips and strategies and ideas for business owners on how they can manage their taxes in 2025. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. That's generally our topic. And you can get more information at your2025taxplan.com. So we're going to be hearing from Jackie about that event. I want to hear a little bit about her current entrepreneurial experience in launching this business that's only a year and a half old. And we've got some other, of course, hard-hitting questions. But before we get into all of that, as always, blowing your minds every Wednesday at 9, going live at 9:05, Maverick Mindset Radio on Facebook. We've got our episodes on Spotify and YouTube, so make sure you go and like and follow and subscribe. MaverickMindsetRadio.com, where we've got updates constantly going out. And if you like what you hear today, share the show. If you get excited about saving money on your taxes and defunding the IRS, share the show. If you think that someone could benefit from attending our event, our free webinar next Wednesday, share the show. If you're sick of hearing me say share the show, share the show.
Share the show.
Welcome, Jackie. Do you have any opening remarks that you'd like to share before we get into the quote of the day?
Well, just really excited to be here. Thank you for that beautiful intro.
What are you
Uh,
most excited about?
Most excited about telling people how they can change their tax journey.
There you
Yeah.
go. That's
Yeah.
good. I like it. Okay.
All right.
So Ashley, let's get into it. Quote of the
Yeah.
day. What do you got?
I found that I found this quote. I liked it. I don't know, but it says, "An idiot with a plan can beat a genius without a plan." And I chose this because we're talking about tax strategy and stuff. It's a thing that a lot of people don't know about. And they don't know their numbers and they're not familiar with things, but that doesn't mean that just because you don't know something that you can't go out, get a good plan, and be successful in whatever you're doing. Because even the smartest person that may know all those things, if they don't have a plan, they're not going to be successful, right? I think a good plan helps you in any type of business or what you're doing to be successful. So since we're talking about that today, that's why I chose that. That's my
Yeah.
thoughts.
So, yeah, I mean, successful business owners have a business plan. They
Yes.
have goals and they map out the steps to that they think they need to accomplish or complete to reach those goals. So they've got a business plan, which usually breaks down with a marketing plan and a sales plan and a hiring plan for those of us that are growing really quickly and need the team to back us up. And the natural result of those things working for most businesses is you make more money. So then you want to have a tax plan so that your tax bill stays under control. So an idiot with a plan can beat a genius without a plan. And if you identify with that quote, maybe this is for you. Or if you're or imagine what a genius with a plan could accomplish.
Right?
Wow.
Even better.
Wow. All right. I have a Donald Trump reference in there somewhere, but I'm going to keep it to myself. All right. So here we go. Today's topic, your 2025 tax plan. We're going to be sharing some tips today. We're going to be talking about the event that we're doing next Wednesday. Of course, we're going to get some of Jackie's story about this, which we're really excited about. So, Jackie, you've been on the show, what, twice now? Is this your third appearance? All right.
Yep.
So tell us why you're here. Give us a little bit of your background. What makes you interesting? What makes you cool? Why should people listen for the next 45 minutes or so to this episode?
Well, we, with this radio show, right, attract business owners. And I have had the unique experience in my career to marry, I guess this is my life, not just my career, marry into an entrepreneurial family um, after learning the language of business, which we call accounting. And it's very interesting to see and learn how entrepreneurs are passionate about what they're building, but they're not often given a lot of guidance on the language of business, which is accounting, right? Your financial statements, your taxes, and so much of that, the lack of that knowledge could lead to your success in business or your many lessons in business. So what I am excited to do currently in my career is take the lessons that I've learned in formal accounting and help business owners have less painful lessons and more profitable lessons with their taxes and their accounting.
That's a
Jackie,
good one. Go ahead,
yeah.
Ashley.
What do you think the common misconceptions are about taxes and tax planning? That when you're meeting with clients and that what you're learning from them, what do you think that they're missing there or they don't understand?
I think a lot of entrepreneurs are managing their business based on their bank account. And so if there's not a lot there at the end, they might not think they owe a lot in taxes because, well, I spent it all. So I had to have had a lot of deductions. And there's a lot of strategy that goes into how we spend our cash and how we monitor what the IRS is going to consider a profit versus what our bank account is telling us. And I think that is a big misconception from amongst a lot of business owners. I have a big tax bill now. How is that possible? Where did the cash go? And when we set a plan and we track to a plan and we really look at the financial numbers, organized how the IRS is going to look at them on a regular basis, we can be better planning for that tax bill and maybe change how we're spending that cash.
There's a lot of good stuff in there. I mean, it's amazing how many business owners we can talk to at any time in the year, and they have no idea how much money they made. Like, ignore the tax bill side of it. Like, just understanding how much money you've made. So, of course, our accounting 101 class, they say that accounting is the language of business. I've taken accounting 101 three different times. Uh, but it's really interesting because I think about like Jackie, when you and I went to Costa Rica and we got the Duolingo app and we studied Spanish. And by the time we got there, like I remember having a conversation, not a perfect one, but a conversation in a coffee shop in Spanish. I didn't study Spanish in high school. I don't travel to a lot of Spanish speaking countries. It was the first time we did that. And I felt great being able to order my breakfast. I couldn't do that now. I'm a little rusty. And then fast forward, I don't know, I think it was several months after that where I went and Costa Rica is like it's bilingual, right? So you get off the airplane and you land at the airport and you walk into the airport and the signs are in English and Spanish, which is great practice. But then remember after we went to Costa Rica, I went to Guatemala on my own and it is not like that. Everything is in Spanish. So I got off the airplane and walked into the airport and said, "Oh boy, here we go." And I couldn't avoid it. I had to figure it out. I think the difference is in business owners, they get scared by the numbers. They're intimidated by the numbers. So they ignore them, or they think that somebody else is going to handle it for them, or it's a problem for April and not a time for now. But that language of business and accounting, it goes beyond just taxes.
Right.
How about just feeling confident in the amount of money that you make? How about being able to go to your bank and borrow money so that you can chase down the next opportunity or improve your cash flow? You're going to need good financial statements. If you want to bring on investors, if you want to sell your business and get the maximum amount of money, your accounting better be in good shape. Too many business owners, when they get ready to sell, use the Dr. Evil method and say, I'm going to sell my business for $1 million. And it's like the numbers don't justify that, right? So that this conversation, and I think your career, you didn't start as a tax accountant.
Mm-mm.
You started as an auditor at a
Right.
big fancy accounting firm, right? You one of the four largest accounting firms in the world. And then in what was it, 2019, you left that world, you left the accounting world, you left the financial services world to come and work with me and like one other employee, right? So
Yeah.
I think I'm really curious to know how long has it been? It's been 6 years, almost 6 years, right?
March, it'll be 6 years.
Yeah. So what do you think is the biggest what was the biggest difficulty in transitioning from massive corporate America to Adam shows up in basketball shorts to work every day?
Um, I think when you're a business owner, getting the work done becomes your primary focus, right? And so when I was in big corporate America, we were in different departments and, spaces. And um, it didn't even occur to me that like accounting wouldn't get attention in a small business. And I think that is such a big thing. And it's easy, even coming into the business as being married to the owner. I could fill a 40-hour week just taking care of making sure all the numbers were in the right place in bookkeeping, to get these beautiful reports that I would have prepared in my prior life. And I think and we did that because we couldn't justify hiring someone in that position. But luckily, I had the background. So I think one thing that I really saw there was a struggle was like, well, this isn't probably the best use of my time, but it needs to be done. And when things would get behind in tracking that kind of stuff, we would really feel the pain. So I think I learned the frustration of what it felt like it took to keep up with our books if I was doing it ourselves, and having to get over the hurdle of finding that a worthy investment, right? So that we could grow and move into different positions that where we felt we were adding more value to our business.
That's a really good example of what a lot of people face on the entrepreneurial journey of this has to get done, so I'm just going to do it. And they aren't doing any and we didn't for a long time,
Right.
doing no analysis of what's my time actually worth and where should I be spending my time. You could be doing the bookkeeping, which we had one of our clients join our webinar on Friday, um, to teach our other clients about some opportunities. And he outsources his bookkeeping for a seven-figure business for like $300 a month, right? Or, I mean, even if you hire somebody in person or someone local or someone full-time or someone part-time, like the amount of money it costs to hire a competent bookkeeper it's one of the lowest paying jobs in a business, I think. And because of that, it should be one of the first things that gets outsourced or gets delegated so that you can get to higher value activities. You can be reviewing the reports. You can be focusing on things that grow the business. You can be managing your profitability because, again, most business owners don't even know how profitable their business is or isn't for that matter. So would you rather be clicking the buttons in QuickBooks to track your expenses, or would you rather be looking at it saying, wow, I made $42 last month and I worked 100 hours a week. I better change something about this. That's
Mhm.
good stuff. All right.
Why don't you
So
guys explain what, when you're talking about bookkeeping and what is, because I think people get confused of all the different types of accountants. And I know that's something we want to talk about and why tax strategists are different, but why they're important, why you have to have them. But then Jackie, you also mentioned when you were talking, and you said you started to understand as being in the business, getting the work done and what has to be done. Do you think then that is what, now being the founder of Pennywise, that's what makes you relatable now to our clients and the business owners that are coming in, because you understand that struggle, you understand what that's like, you understand what they're doing and what they're missing. Do you think that's what sets Pennywise apart from other places now?
I definitely do believe that sets us apart. I think there are so many clients that come to us so afraid to kind of show us where their books are or what their experience has been. And I think that having that unique experience of being someone that was literally the person that caught the mistakes
Yeah.
of big corporate accountants to like the person that understands how a small business owner who is not educated in this kind of stuff is just really trying to make ends meet in their brain, I guess, about how this works and how to keep as much money as possible to, provide for themselves, their family, and show a successful bottom line.
And we invented a phrase around that. We realized, the three of us, when we were in Atlanta, realized that we were providing a service to people that we weren't really marketing, or we didn't really understand until we sat down. So can you explain what that service is, Jackie, what that phrase is and how it works?
Tax therapy? Is that the phrase?
Therapy. That's it.
Yes.
Because like I said at the beginning of the show, people feel shame around not knowing their numbers.
Mhm.
And the accounting industry is built by a bunch of rule following nerds who get really judgmental about mistakes. So if your books are off, I'm going to scold you. I'm going to yell at you. I'm going to tell you what an idiot are. I'm going to ask you, how could you possibly let this happen? Do you think business owners want to hear that? Like, we're already self-critical enough. Tell us how you flip that on its head.
Well, I mean, it comes down to just like our first call in our process is really trying to discover what people want out of their life and where they are right now. And I think that making that the focus definitely helps the conversations about the numbers become a lot more easy or become easier. So that starting with that approach, I think helps. And then I think helping them understand the different types of accountants and who they really need in their group of trusted advisors as part of that meeting is really a key focus as well. Not everybody needs a CFO, a managerial accountant, a controller, a bookkeeper. I mean, when you're starting your journey, you do need a bookkeeper and you do need a tax preparer. And that will get you in a good place if you start with a good bookkeeper and you're prompt and proactive with your tax preparer. You'll be compliant and you'll probably have a good handle on your numbers. And then from there, as you grow your business, as you are looking to scale it and basically become more profitable and keep more of that money, you want to get involved with a controller, a CFO, and then obviously like a tax planner, tax strategist, coaching you through what do I need to be doing throughout the year? These are the transactions that are coming up. These are the things I'm doing anyway. So how do I find the savings that are in the tax code for me? And it makes it into my return versus going through the year, doing the things you need to do, but not even being aware of or communicating to your tax preparer what you did so that they can look out for those different credits or opportunities to reimburse you for expenses, et cetera.
So let's start at that foundational level, because this has been really interesting to me. We've got our Facebook group that anybody can join, Pennywise Tax Strategies, and we ask a couple questions when you join that group. And one of those questions is, why are you here? What are you doing? And literally some people say, I'm one of your competitors and I just want to see what's going on. Fine. Then there's other people that say, hey, my taxes are too much and I want to learn how to save it. I'm amazed. I shouldn't be amazed, but I'm pleasantly surprised at the number of people that just say, "I'm just trying to understand the basics of tax and accounting." So let's start with that foundational level and sort of go through the different layers of accountants that you can have, keeping in mind that when you're a new business or a small business, you may have one person that fills all these roles, or you may be this person, or you maybe you working with an accountant. But as your business grows and as you make more money and as things become more complex, you sort of separate these roles out and you can hire specialists and people that stay in a more narrow lane and they can collaborate and work together. So let's start with that basic foundational level of a bookkeeper. Like what's a bookkeeper do? What's that job description?
So if you're really small, a bookkeeper could be someone that's just tracking your expenses in Excel. You are a bookkeeper if you are just starting out and you are entering every expense that you have or every income, every revenue item sale that you have in Excel. As you grow, you're going to want software that will provide and demonstrate financial statements, right? So that would be your QuickBooks. Xero is a popular one as well. So those softwares will track your revenue, your expenses, and will provide you more reports so that you can digest what's going on in your business. A bookkeeper is the person that inserts the information there. You might have a bookkeeper that will review that information with you, provide a little more analysis, but that shouldn't necessarily be expected. A bookkeeper is going to literally keep the books, put the information in the books. Sometimes when you have a bookkeeper, they also will help you with payroll. But that isn't always the case. So there are payroll providers who that could be like your ADP, your Gusto, Paychecks. You're going to want to have one of these services. There's also local, payroll providers as well. But this is another thing that I really recommend outsourcing because the rules around payroll change often. And there's a lot of compliance around them and there's deadlines. So having a payroll provider is the next step, right? As you
So
start.
here, yeah, let me put a pin in that because here's something that a lot of people screw up. One, they say, well, I don't have any employees. I don't need a payroll company. That may be true, but at some point you're going to want to hire an employee, probably in some capacity, right? Way, way, way too many business owners screw it up and they hire employees as 1099 contractors. So you talked about compliance and rule following and filling out the forms. This is probably the biggest mistake I see business owners make when it comes to an accounting like procedural rule following thing is they say, I'm going to hire 1099 employees. There is no such thing as a 1099 employee. You either have an employee or you have a contractor. So one, get some advice on it's not your decision which category they are, right? There's rules, there's check boxes. So get some advice on that. But two, even if you're paying only a 1099 contractor, if you're truly outsourcing something, you still have an obligation to send them a 1099 if you paid them over or whatever it is, 600 bucks, right? A good payroll company will handle that for you. Or if you do hire that employee, whether it's full-time, part-time, seasonal, whatever, hourly, salary, doesn't make a difference. I feel bad for payroll companies because what they do is so nuanced and so detailed and so rule driven and also so inexpensive. So they handle not just the paychecks and the direct deposits, right? Like that's the part that your employees care about. But they'll send out the W-2s when the time comes at the beginning of the year so your employees can do their taxes. They handle your payment and your filing of your monthly or quarterly payroll tax returns. They'll handle paying workers' comp. Handle paying unemployment compensation. If you handle other benefits, they'll make sure the payments get made for health insurance, short-term disability, long-term disability, vision, dental, whatever, retirement accounts, right? All of that stuff that I just outlined, I bet I missed things, and that's because we have a payroll company that just handles this for us at a very reasonable rate. So even if you don't have employees, or even if you think you only have contractors, or if you're not sure whether you want to hire or not, you should not be doing your own payroll. It is an absolute complete waste of your time.
So Adam, do you think so we've talked about bookkeepers, talked about payroll providers. At what point when you're a business owner do you say, okay, I need to have these and they need to be separate? When is that time so they know it's time? When do they know it's time to be making these jumps to have these different things in their
Oh,
business? Or do you just start off with all of
no,
it?
you're all right. Okay. Oh man. All right. Grab your pens and paper, folks. When entrepreneurs start a business, they think they have to do it all on their own. And there's two reasons for that. Reason number one is they want to maintain control. And they think if they have their hands in everything, it's under control and it's going to be fine. Reason number two is they don't think they can afford to pay people to do things for them, so they're just going to do it for themselves, right? That's the new business owner, that's the small business owner, that's the person who's overworked and broke and miserable. Let's talk about the people that have balance in their lives and do things that they like to do, and they make a whole bunch of money and employ a bunch of people and help a whole bunch of clients, and they achieve whatever their definition of success is. Those successful entrepreneurs are the people that understand that when you hire an expert to do something for you, it gets done faster and better than if you did it yourself. You're never going to be able to get somebody to care as much as you do about your business, but payroll is a great example of that. I could go and research and figure all of this stuff out and probably get it mostly right and probably avoid getting into trouble, or I could pay somebody 30 bucks a week. Well, for the hours and hours and hours that that's going to save me, I could come up with a new marketing plan. I could go to a networking event. I could take a nap. That would actually help my business, right? So here's the thing. For that new business owner, if you want to be successful, the faster you get to the point where you're delegating and outsourcing and bringing in experts, the faster your business will become successful. So before you jump in and try and figure everything out in the beginning on your own, find mentors, find experts, find coaches, find service providers who can do this for you. And we talked about this, I think, I know we talked about this on a prior show. How you make that work, because I know there's people out there that I can't afford it. I can't pay for this. Go and do more sales. Don't post on social media. Don't tweak your website. Don't polish your business cards for the 37th time. Go and make more sales. That is the highest value activity that you can engage in with a new business. And to some extent, it's true for big businesses too. Like Jeff Bezos still sits in important meetings that are going to generate a lot of revenue for Amazon, right? You never get to the point where you're not engaged in that stuff. So I think that's the key is my answer, when do you hire these people? As soon as possible, especially with the bookkeeper and the payroll, because those are the lowest cost of all these people. Should you hire a tax strategist when you start your brand new business? Probably not. Probably not, right? Unless you're really well funded and you've got a whole bunch of investors and you're going to go and attack a market. I think about some of the companies that did the employee retention credits, right? They raised tens of millions of dollars just to launch their businesses. You can bet they were getting tax advice when they did that because they were buying Super Bowl ads, right? Most businesses aren't doing that. Most of us are out there scratching and clawing and hustling and grinding to get those first few clients. So I would say get the bookkeeping out of the way first, right? Too many business owners say, I'm going to go work all day in my business. I'm going to serve clients and deal with vendors and deal with employees. And then they get home at the end of the day and they're tired and exhausted and worn out and people were unreasonably mean to them and nobody thanked them and nobody said good job. And then they flip open their laptop and they start going through QuickBooks. Don't do that to yourself. Don't do that to yourself. Oh man, thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Yeah. Well, it's good. Well, because I think, and Jackie, you know this, with people coming with tax plans, and when they don't have those things in place, makes it really hard to then put a successful plan together, right? That's something we ask that clients have, because right, having your numbers in order and making sure all of that, people don't realize it's an impact to taxes, right?
Right. And once you have that, also being on the cadence of reviewing those numbers on a monthly basis and understanding what's going on with them is really key to being able to strategize too. So even if you have the tax bill that allows for a lot of tax strategy to happen, right? You're netting a big taxable income number at the bottom of the first page of your return. Um, you might not know about that if you're not looking at your monthly numbers, and you can't do anything about it if you wait until December. And then you really don't know to do anything about it in, the other months, or maybe you have a plan, but you're not sure where you're at, so you don't go ahead and bite the bullet to invest or change, follow the plan, change course. And so it's really important to have those numbers handled and reviewed, because you might have them being done, but you might not know if you have a good bookkeeper either if you're not reviewing them, right? So maybe the numbers are there, but they're not being done right. And so you get to the end of the year with numbers that might not be right. So
We had a good friend that hired a new bookkeeper. Do you remember this? And he had an outsourced virtual assistant for like $2,000 a month. And his bookkeeper was categorizing that as an owner's draw and not as an expense for a virtual assistant. And 3 or 4 months went by, and he finally pulled out his profit and loss statement and said, "What's this?" And the bookkeeper said, "Oh, I didn't know what it was, so I just called it a draw." The next month, that guy had a new bookkeeper. Like that's it doesn't take a rocket science. It doesn't take an accounting degree to look at your profit and loss statement and make sure that it makes sense. Okay, so Jackie, we talked about bookkeeper, we talked about payroll companies. Can you talk about some of the other types of accountants? Because I think what happens a lot is people say, "I need an accountant for my business," but they aren't clear of what they want that person to actually do. So break down some of the other types of accountants that small businesses should be working with.
sure. So the next one we commonly hear about, what a lot of accountants go to school for, is to become a financial reporting CPA. And this is someone that's going to prepare financial statements that are what the bank's going to look at to get you loans. It's what's reviewed with the SEC when companies are publicly traded. That was a world that I started my career in. And so that's going to be historical financial reporting. You don't make you can make some future decisions from it, but you can't make, it's not going to be the best information to make future decisions. It is old information, historical information, and not forward looking.
So these to draw an analogy to fitness, this would be looking backwards at what did I eat and what were my exercises and what was my weight on the scale. That's the financial accountant looking backwards.
Right. And so very successful businesses also have managerial accountants, and they are going to help you project, help you determine the profitability of your services, help you analyze cash flow, when it's going to be there, when it's not. So a managerial accountant is kind of going to be your CFO type accountant, right? They're going to help you analyze the most up-to-date bookkeeping, and then also look at what your budget was. And are you tracking to budget? Are we going to have to change budget? Is there a new forecast that you should have in mind? So in order to plan, you also need to be thinking about a budget, not just the past. Have a vision. What do my numbers look like going forward? And when someone is in that space, really that is when you are going to want to have someone that is like a tax strategist with you if you're going to have the profitability, right? A tax strategist is kind of akin to your CFO, but on the tax side of things, not just on the are my numbers in the right places type thing. So,
So that managerial accountant, I want to continue with the analogy. That person that's doing the budgeting, the projections, the forecasting, like we use our managerial accountant. We know if we want to hire another tax strategist, we got to pay the salary. But Our managerial accountant also says, here's the additional employment taxes. You got to buy a computer. Here's the software. Here's the health insurance. Here's the training that you're going to have to pay for 90 days after they start so they can get additional certifications and licensing. So that managerial accountant is more like the personal trainer who says, here's your diet to follow. Here's your exercise routine. Stop smoking, right? Like that. Now you actually have to go out and do that stuff, and chances are you won't be 100% perfect with it, so you're going to have to adjust. But that's what the managerial account does.
Right. So when you're at that level, I see like a tax strategist maybe as the nutritionist next to the personal trainer, right? It's someone it's helping you kind of stay on track, adjust things, and make sure that you're also thinking of other ways that impact is going to hit your bottom line, depending on how that managerial accountant's plan is implemented, and what else needs to be implemented alongside it. So I keep saying tax strategist. And so then what I really want to make sure that I'm differentiating from is a tax preparer. A tax preparer, their job is to present your taxes on your tax return as accurately as possible based on what you have given them. They're not going in there and they're not paid to go in there and say, oh, last year in your tax return, you didn't have this number and you have it this year. Should I go see if there's credits that you could get for that? One example that we saw a lot recently is that there are some really great retirement plan credits out there right now. And last year, when we were prepping tax returns for people who were joining us to be tax strategy clients for 2024, we knew some of the strategies that if they had already taken place, right, we could still find the credits for. And these were ones where we could ask a question and get them tax savings. Now, do some preparers do that? Sure. But is that within their basically job description? No. So it's
Plus,
stuff.
they're usually too busy to do it because all of their clients are dumping shoe boxes full of receipts on them on April 1st. So
Right.
they sometimes just don't have the capacity for it.
Exactly. So a tax preparer is focusing on accuracy and compliance, and a tax strategist should be an advocate for you that is not ignoring accuracy and compliance, keeping things within the scope of the law, right? This isn't tax evasion. But also, considering your best interest, taking advantage of what the tax code allows for.
So with
Saying
that
the
being,
tax code can be your friend, which I think a lot, is that a misconception where people are like, tax codes are there to hurt me, but really they're there to benefit you because there are strategies around that?
Right. I mean, with a lot of coffee.
it's more like, yeah, it's more like a frenemy.
Yes. I mean, don't get me wrong. I am a CPA, and the tax code isn't like a novel that I'm looking to, pick up and
Well,
curl up with necessarily all the time. But it definitely there's opportunity there, right?
so yeah, so if we back up, there's two reasons that taxes exist. One is to raise revenue, which this country needs plenty of, apparently, and two, to create incentives and disincentives. So if politicians don't want people to do things, they tax that thing, right? The cost of a pack of cigarettes now is so high because the taxes on it are really, really high, right? If we want people to use less gas and less fossil fuels, we're going to impose a higher tax on gas. But it can also create incentives. If we want employers to create retirement plans for their employees, we're going to give a tax credit for that, right? We're either going to allow you to take deductions as a write-off, which will reduce your taxes, or we'll give you like a dollar for dollar reimbursement. We saw this with the employee retention credit. The government wanted employers to keep people on payroll throughout the pandemic, even though they were out there shutting everybody's business down. So they created a tax credit to reward business owners for struggling through and figuring it out and making it work. So they created an incentive around that. So, Jackie, that was a really good explanation of the types of accountants. And just to recap here, so we're Maverick Mindset Radio. We're talking about your 2025 tax plan. We're talking about how savvy business owners are starting right now planning out their 2025 tax bill so that they're not scrambling at the end of the year to try and find ridiculous deductions. They're not panicking next April, not knowing what their tax bill is going to be or knowing that it's going to be some massive number. Savvy business owners are planning now. They know they're going to know how much money that they make throughout the year. They're going to be projecting for their tax bill, and they're going to be taking advantage of what the tax code provides to us to reduce that tax bill. So next Wednesday, January 29th, we are hosting your 2025 tax plan. We're going to be going through some specific tips and strategies that sophisticated, savvy, rich business owners are taking advantage of. And if you're listening to this recording and you miss the event, we'll leave that URL up so you can still get access to the recording of it. And then, of course, we have our Facebook group, Pennywise Tax Strategies, where we're sharing a bunch of this stuff. But Jackie, let's get into a couple questions about this event in particular. So registration is at your2025taxplan.com. This is a free event. Why did you and I decide to do this on January 29th?
Well, I'll tell you. How many people were interested in tax savings, right? November, December, right? We couldn't do much at all. And there are so many strategies that if you're thinking about them in January or you're thinking about them in early February, come the summer, you could have them in place already, or you can be getting them moved forward. If we were doing this in November when everyone's kind of got that fire lit underneath them, we can give them the ideas, but honestly, they're not going to get them started any sooner or be able to get them in that tax year, right? So we want to get you the most savings as possible and want to bring them to your attention sooner rather than later.
So I think a couple of examples that we've seen on that, and we can go from basic foundational level tax strategy to some of the more advanced stuff. For the newer, smaller, maybe younger growing businesses, something as simple as choosing the right entity can have a huge impact on your taxes. But if you wait until June or July to do that, you're going to miss half a year of savings on it, which could be thousands of dollars. For the more complex strategies, the clients that are making more money, they may want to do what's called a cost segregation study on a piece of real estate, which takes time. They may want to set up their own charitable foundation. They may want to set up a captive insurance company. And these are all massive tax strategy, tax savings moves that are also fantastic for wealth building. That's not something that you just flip the switch on in December, or it's not something that you just fill out the paperwork before you do your taxes next year, right? There are things that you want to start doing now. And like all business owners, we always wish we had more time. We're constantly rushing, we're constantly scrambling. So if we start the process now, we've got 11 months to put things in place and adjust the plan when things don't go exactly according to plan, whether they went way better or way worse. Planning for that is super important. So the reason that we're doing this now, instead of waiting until April when people are thinking about taxes, or November and December where they're trying to find those last minute deductions, is the savviest business owners that we work with are thinking about this right now. The millionaires and billionaires that you hear politicians talk about and how they find all the loopholes and they don't pay enough taxes, there's a reason for that. They're thinking about it 12 months out of the year because it's such a huge expense for them. So we're trying to share some of this knowledge and some of this wisdom now so that people can take advantage of this stuff. All right. So next Wednesday, January 29th, your2025taxplan.com. Give us a summary, or what are the things that we're going to cover or go over during this event?
So we're going to focus on the foundational types of strategies, the ones that are easy to understand, first and foremost, right? And basically help you identify those and figure out how you can actually get those implemented as soon as possible. And then when it comes down to is, identifying what are you implementing, what are you already doing, and making sure the implementation is the biggest part. So we can have all of these webinars, and you can take that information away, but giving also some tips on how you can implement it is important. We already kind of went over the types of accountants here, but that is something that we always also cover in those webinars as well. Like Adam, like you said too, also making sure that we talk through the strategies that are probably close to your reach as you grow as well. I was trying to think of the other things since you already went over that
Well,
part.
I think part of it is there's a lot of bad information on the internet. There's a lot of incomplete information on the internet. So we're going to debunk some of those myths.
Yeah.
And then I think there's also a tendency for human beings and especially entrepreneurs to overcomplicate things. So you have a business owner that makes 50 grand a year saying, I need revocable trusts and holding companies and complexity, complexity, complex. No, you don't. You don't need any of that. You need a foundation of good bookkeeping and accurate records. And then from there, you can start implementing some of these tips that we're going to share on the webinar, right? When you start making real money, like multiple hundreds of thousands, seven figures, we can get more complex, we can get more advanced, but there's no reason to do that now. You're missing out on low-hanging fruit. You're missing out on easy opportunities that, again, your accountant's too busy to tell you about during busy season. They're not doing anything to meet with you throughout the year. We're going to really, I think the point of this webinar is to educate people on the opportunities that are available so that they can decide whether they actually want to take the next step and save themselves tens of thousands of dollars on
And
their
you
tax.
guys are going to go over some of the most common questions that people have, misconceptions, but also objections that people are throwing out, thinking of why they don't need tax strategy or what they've been told, or hitting some of those so that you could recognize if you're one of those people.
Yeah, that's
So,
the craziest thing to me. Like at the foundation, one of the ways that you minimize your tax bill is to have more legitimate business expenses, right? If you bring in $100 of revenue and you have $99 of expenses and there's only $1 of income left, that's what you get taxed on. But in those $99 of expenses, there are a lot of things that you can do to improve your life personally and to improve your business. We, for example, this is small, but our business pays for our cell phones, right? A couple $100 a month that we now get to write off, like the business helps to pay for that. That's a basic one. There's way more than that. But the point is, when you are putting those expenses on your tax return to show a lower income, when the IRS, if they ever come knocking on your door and they want to review where you came up with these numbers, sometimes they will disallow those expenses. And let's say you can't write that off. You can't take that deduction. And the number one reason why they do that is because of improper documentation. Oh, you deducted this meal or you deducted this hotel stay, but to me it looks like it was a personal thing. It doesn't look like there was any business reason here. Well, if you have a good bookkeeper and you have good record keeping, you're going to be able to demonstrate that it was in fact a business expense and you can take that deduction. So that, like, we get that all the time, but people are like, well, how am I going to justify this with the IRS? That's part of what a good tax strategist does is they help to implement it and create the documentation and create the paper trail so that if the IRS, if they ever send an examiner to come and look at things, it'll be a really quick discussion because it'll be a beautiful, easy presentation for them. Where people get in trouble is when their tax return is based on their bank statement and their credit card statement, and every single credit card expense shows up as an expense somewhere on their tax return, but they don't explain what it was for. If you're writing off $75 a day at a gas station, is that gas for your vehicle? Are you buying lunch for you and your entire crew? Are you just buying gift cards that you can go spend at Bed Bath and Beyond? Like, you need to document that stuff and have that stuff in place. So we'll spend a lot of time talking about how important good documentation is. So if we're doing some, like, I would say that we're covering the low-hanging fruit. We're covering the first probably 6 or 7 strategies that before you get into anything more complex or anything more advanced, you first have to have a discussion around these things. You may only implement one of them. You may be able to implement 6 or 7 of them. But the point is, there's no sense in getting more complex and more advanced and more expensive and suffering more brain damage if you're not starting with this foundational stuff. So that's what we're covering. What we're not covering is the more advanced, intricate, personalized, difficult to implement stuff. So
And that's because we always get this question too. People are like, well, just tell me now. Tell me now what you can do for me. Why can't you just tell someone now what you can do for them?
I went out to dinner with a bunch of guys about a week and a half ago. We do this every couple of months. There's like 12 of us. It is an absolute blast. And the new people who show up to this dinner, we make them order first. And it's always like, I'll get the grilled chicken, I'll get the salmon. And then they get to the rest of the group and it's steak, 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 right? And we get red wine and it doesn't pair with the salmon, but then they come back for the second dinner and they order the steak, right? So we went out this last time and the one guy didn't even open his menu. And the server came to him and he said, "What do you want?" And he goes, "I don't know, surprise me." The server knew enough to bring him the biggest steak 30-day dry aged thing on the menu, right? But if it wasn't that type of dinner and if you didn't have that knowledge, how would you even know what to order for somebody, right? So there are strategies that Jackie and I have implemented that some people may have no interest in. I found a way to have Uncle Sam help me pay for my race car. Well, there are people out there that have no interest in that. There may be business owners who want to spend more time traveling and they want to do that in a tax advantageous way. Well, Jackie and I have two kids and they're in school 9 months out of the year and it's difficult to get away. That's not part of our lifestyle right now. So as we get into those more, I don't even want to say advanced topics, those are just more personalized of like, listen, we think your business should work for you and create the lifestyle that you want. So let's do it in a tax advantageous way. But I can't tell you what you should want out of your business, right? Maybe you want a new car, or maybe you're the person that puts 300,000 miles on your CRV and doesn't care about it. Well, I'm not going to tell you to go and buy a new car just to save money on your taxes. We had another client at the end of the year that we're scrambling trying to come up with ideas because he waited until the last minute. And this was like the exception to the rule of all these meetings where I said, this is not great tax advice, but you can give money to charity. Like I hate telling you that as a tax strategy. Like give your money away to save on your taxes. And he goes, "Oh, that's a good idea. I actually tithe 10% of my income to my church." So we found a way for him to tithe his 2025 amount in 2024 so that he could get all the tax savings now. That's not for everybody. I'd be a jerk if I recommended that to all of our clients or told them to do it. I'll throw it out there as an option, right? But I think that's the point is this stuff gets personalized. You're growing a business to accomplish your personal and professional and financial goals. Let's build a tax plan that supports that.
So
And
is
that's
that
why
kind
we
of like what you said earlier, Jackie, like with tax therapy, like you're
yeah.
digging in and forming a relationship and getting very personal with these people in order to get them what they uniquely need for them.
Right. So that's why we start with the person and what their goals and their dreams are and their how they want to live their life and try to find the strategies that are going to work within that. If it's someone that is really passionate about environment type incentives, right? Like wants to put solar on their home, there's things out there for them. If it's someone who wants to live abroad for a period of time, there's the foreign income or foreign earned income tax exclusion that we could make work for them. So there's different things that we can find that pair with the things that they want out of life, and that's why we focus on the person first.
So Jackie, as we're reaching the end here, we're doing this event January 29th, your2025taxplan.com. Why should people attend this one? When are we going to do this again? What's the schedule look like for the rest of the year?
Well, we'll probably do it again in April, definitely probably in October when you're not going to have as much time left. But like we said before, the sooner you do this, the more opportunities you'll have to implement items as 2025 unfolds. And that's why you should come. I'll tell you what, there are people that join us in the fourth quarter that have mileage, for example, all year that they haven't tracked, right? That's one little example of why come in January. You can start tracking your mileage from your home office to your brick and mortar office, and you have it started in January or maybe early February versus June.
Plus, the other thing that we're going to talk about on this webinar is, I don't know if anybody noticed, but a new president got sworn in 2 days ago. So we got to start planning for what changes that may create for us. So your2025taxplan.com, sign up, save money on your taxes, defund the IRS, keep more of what you earn. I believe in you.